Good morning and welcome to the January 31st Victim Compensation Board meeting. For those of you in the room that are appearing on a specific agenda item or wish to offer public comment, the microphones at the podium and tables are directional and require that you hold them fairly close to your mouth when speaking to ensure your testimony is captured by our audio equipment. For members and participants who are appearing via Zoom, if you cannot hear the presenter, please use the comment feature to note that as staff are monitoring the comments in real time. Council, will you please call the roll?
Member Becton.
Present.
Member Johnson.
Here.
Chair Ravel.
Present.
Good morning, everyone. The first item is going to be the approval of the minutes for the November 16th, 2023 board meeting.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, additions, or questions about the minutes from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item 1?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Is there any public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location? Seeing none.
Council, please call the roll.
The motion for consideration is approval of the November 16th, 2023 meeting minutes. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 2 is the approval of the minutes for the December 20, 2023 board meeting.
Is there any discussion, additions, or corrections to the minutes from the board members? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item 2?
I move to approve item 2, the minutes.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location?
Seeing none, Council, please call the roll.
The motion for consideration by the board is approval of the December 20th, 2023 meeting minutes. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item is public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. As any items discussed during public comment have not been agendized, the board is not committed to take any action on these matters at this meeting. Please note, if you have to offer public comment regarding items 7 through 10, there will be a separate call for public comment when each item is heard by the board. For those on the phone, if you previously indicated you desire to offer comments during this meeting, we will be calling on you by name or phone number. For those participating via Zoom, please raise your hand if you wish to offer comment, and we will acknowledge you and let you know when it is your turn to speak.
Ms. Petros.
Mhm.
Yes. Is there claimant? I would like to go. That would go be for me, please. Has a claimant raised her hand? No. Okay. I'll go then. I was expecting the victim to speak first, so I'll go ahead. But good morning. My name is Margaret Petros. I'm the Executive Director of Mothers Against Murder, a victim advocacy nonprofit organization. I'm the authorized victim advocate and representative of the victim on item number 4 of your closed sessions agenda. I'm asking Chairman Ravel, Member Johnson, and Member Becton to use your discretion to allow the wage loss for claim number A20-827441. The victim and I don't know what the hearing officer's recommendation is to you, and that you'll be deliberating, which I think it's wrong, and I've addressed this issue with you in the past. It's impossible to advocate when I don't know what the hearing officer's recommendation is, and oddly, on this, even the agenda is, the claim number is not listed under allow or deny. It's just separate by itself. So we don't know what the recommendation is. But victims sought my agency's help after 2.5 years of going through the program, and her claim was over the final denial. And after I reviewed and based on my experience with California victim compensation, I believe this wage loss could have been approved 3 years ago if the right and caring attention was given to this person and to this file. There are tons of documents, thousands, several disability verification forms, but it does none that perfectly matches the regulations requirement, which can really be oftentimes impossible. That's the reason I'm asking you to use your discretion, because there is a lot that documents wage loss, disability. There's a doctor. There are several licensed therapists that have said this person is disabled directly related to the crime. In fact, the victim went as far as submitting her medical history to the program for like 10 years. I cringed when I saw that in file. It's like, why all these records? But she did not know any better. She did not have the support and guidance of an advocate. Her local county victim witness advocate did not inform him what was necessary, what was needed from day one. Now, 3 years later, it's impossible to fix this, although I still believe the statutes are not restrictive. There is enough to qualify this claimant. She's already qualified under eligibility, but it's the wage loss that she needs. And I find the claimant has a writ of mandate, and it was figured out there were errors by the staff. Therefore, she worked with the Attorney General's office to put a stay on the court's case. And we had a hearing, but I felt at this hearing that the hearing officer was set on denying the claim. In fact, she went as far as obtaining victim's credit report from Equifax, which I've never heard or seen. And when I expressed a concern, the hearing officer said it's actually done all the time. That's unbelievable to me. Please use your discretion, look into this carefully. My respect and admiration for this victim, for her diligence, for her cooperation.
I apologize. It appears we've been Zoom bombed by somebody. All right, Ms. Petros, please continue.
Thank you. This is shocking.
Yes,
Thank you.
indeed.
But my respect again for this victim. She's really tried out 3 years, and she's trying so hard to survive, and she's very talented using her experiences to help other domestic violence victims. All I want, and I know you board members share this, that we want her to survive with the help she's entitled to through CalCVP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Petros. I also want to note that the claimant did submit some written comments to the board that we are considering.
Thank you.
Seeing no more hands, I will move to item 4, which is the Executive Officer Statement, which will be presented by Executive Officer Linda Gledhill.
Good morning. Nice to see all of you. I have a few items to share. As you know, California is facing a significant budget deficit. In December, the Department of Finance issued a budget letter requiring departments to take immediate action to reduce current year expenditures. CalCVP took immediate steps to identify cost savings and make adjustments. For example, in light of the direction that departments cancel all plans for non-essential travel, we've been working with our partners to transition to virtual outreach events unless events are local and provide no cost or at no cost to us. We've also canceled our attendance at several out-of-state conferences and meetings that we would normally attend. We also do anticipate that there will be reductions in the amount of money that we receive from the general fund to backfill the restitution fund. For background, the historical imbalance of the restitution fund largely ties to declines in the state penalty fund revenues and changes to how those funds were dispersed. Revenues from the state penalty fund equaled $53 million in 2008-09, but have been set at $6.5 million each year since 2018-19. Concerns about the solvency of the restitution fund led the legislature to provide general fund backfills that totaled $39.5 million in the 22-23 budget year. Cal VCB has sufficient reserves to help the organization weather reductions in the general fund backfill. We are working closely with the Department of Finance to ensure the path forward will not impact our ability to compensate victims of violent crime. Our leadership team is also focused on opportunities to make internal improvements. And fortunately, we do have the outreach campaign contract underway, and that effort will continue. Although we will have to get creative, we know that our team of dedicated staff, we can continue to make positive changes to help victims even during these challenging budget times. As you know, the Forced or Involuntary Sterilization Compensation Program ended on December 31st, 2023. In total, Cal VCB received 566 applications, 51 of which we received shortly before the end of the program, and that our team is working on reviewing. These individuals will go through the same eligibility process and have the same opportunities to appeal. Cal VCB issues payments to survivors as soon as possible, and we have under the program till the end of September 2024 to issue all payments. This timeline allows us to complete the appeal process for any new applications that came in right before the close of the program. We also received the final report from our contractor that we use for media outreach. We invested about $200,000 into ads on cable TV, radio, and social media in regions across the state. There were over 318 million impressions, meaning this content was seen or heard that many times. Because we closely managed the budget for this contract, we were able to invest extra money into Spanish advertisements in the Southern California region in December, which we hope helped contribute to the increased number of applications we received before the end of the program. We're currently working on the legislative report, and we'll share that with the board along with any other significant updates as we wind this program down. I also wanted to provide you an update regarding the 2024-25 Trauma Recovery Center, or TRC, grant cycle. Cal VCB initiated the grant process by posting a notice of funds available, or NOFA, that was published on the Cal VCB website and the California Grants portal. We also shared this information about this opportunity on our social media and our external newsletter. The NOFA included comprehensive information about the application requirements, submission and review procedures, budget requirements, and general terms and conditions. Interested organizations had until January 22nd to apply for funding. We received 19 TRC applications, and organizations requested a total of $35.8 million. For comparison, last cycle we awarded $17.4 million to 15 TRCs. As a reminder, there's a finite amount of funding available to grant to TRCs, and there's no statutory or other limit for the amount of funding that applicants can request. Given the current budget situation, Cal VCB is unsure how much money will be available in this grant cycle. However, we are confident it will not be sufficient to fund the total amount requested. Once a recommendation for funding levels is made by staff and presented to the board and approved by the board, grantees are advised of what amount was approved. Given that approved amounts may be less than the amounts requested, applicants have the option to either accept or decline the grant. Grant agreements are then executed between the grantee and Cal VCB. We know that this is an area of interest to you and the public, so we wanted to make sure that you were aware of this information in advance of the board meeting to keep you informed, to let you know the number of organizations that applied and the amount of funding that they requested. Finally, today marks the last day of Human Trafficking Prevention Month. During this month, we celebrated the efforts of survivor advocates, anti-trafficking organizations, and law enforcement around the world. We helped raise awareness about human trafficking to end it in all forms. Cal VCB posted a social media toolkit and shared it with our partners and stakeholders to spread the word about human trafficking prevention and resources for victims. Our social media posts were shared by state and local government organizations and reviewed over 2,500 times. Additionally, our outreach team provided information about human trafficking during presentations to community-based organizations in January and continues to connect with anti-trafficking organizations to participate in events and provide presentations. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Officer Gledhill. Yeah, the budget situation is causing a lot of issues. It's certainly not what we'd hoped for. But thank you for the preview about the TRCs as well. That was very helpful, so we know what to expect. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
Seeing none, we'll move to item 5, which is the legislative update. and it will be presented by Deputy Executive Officer Katie Gardinas.
Good morning. The legislature has reconvened. Several bills that were introduced in 2023 were eligible to be advanced this month as two-year bills, but failed the deadline. However, two key bills advanced to their second house last year and could be acted upon later this year. AB 1186 by Assemblymember Bonta would require CalVCB to distribute payment of juvenile restitution orders. This bill is on the Senate inactive file and is eligible to be removed from that file for a floor vote through the end of August. AB 997 by Assemblymember Gibson would require CalVCB to compensate mental health services for individuals with successful erroneous conviction claims. The bill was held on the suspense file in the Senate Appropriations Committee and is eligible to be reheard through August. No new bills that would impact CalVCB have yet been introduced. The introduction deadline for regular bills is February 16th. Those are the highlights, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Cardenas. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Is there any public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6 is the contract update, which will be presented by Deputy Executive Officer Sean Ramirez.
Good morning, board members. The contract report is item 6. At this time, it is for informational purposes only. And if you have any questions on the items, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Deputy. Are there any questions or comments from the board for Deputy Ramirez?
Is there any public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location? Seeing none, we will move to item 7, which is a request for authorization to conclude the rulemaking process for amendments to the California Code of Regulations, Title II, Sections 649.4, 649.7, 649.15, 649.16, 649.19, 649.24, 649.28, and 649.50, which will be presented by Supervising Attorney Sarah Harbarger.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Sarah Harbarger, and I'm an attorney supervisor at the California Victim Compensation Board. Today, I'm seeking authorization to complete the rulemaking process for the proposed regulatory changes found in Agenda Item 7 of your board binder. For a bit of background on this, on January 19th of 2023, the board approved submitting the rulemaking calendar to begin the process of revising the regulations. On September 14th of 2023, the board authorized CalVCB staff to commence the rulemaking process for California Codes of Regulations Title II Sections 649.4, 649.7, 649.15, 649.16, 649.18, 649.19, 649.24, 649.28, and 649.50. The public comment period commenced on September 29th of 2023 and concluded on November 13th of 2023. CalVCB sent 11,342 emails and 28 letters to members of the public notifying them of the proposed modifications and the public comment period. CalVCB staff also held 2 public hearings, one on December 12th of 2023 and a second on December 28th of 2023. CalVCB staff reviewed all comments and considered them that were presented during the public comment period as well as at the public hearing. Based on these comments, CalVCB staff decided to remove 649.4 from the packet for further research and review. The purposes of the changes to the 8 proposed regulations in front of you today is to assist the public in understanding the requirements to obtain victim benefits. Additionally, 2 of the regulations explain to providers the process of when CalVCB discovers provider fraud or audit discrepancies. The overall goal is to increase transparency with all members of our public. The next steps, if you authorize staff to complete the rulemaking process, are the regulations modifications packet will be mailed to the Office of Administrative Law for review and approval. Then, if the Office of Administrative Law approves the regulations packet, they will file it with the Secretary of State. These regulations may take effect on either April 1st or July 1st of 2024, depending on the length of the Office of Administrative Law's review. I am available for any questions about the proposed regulations or the rulemaking process.
Thanks very much, Council. I have a couple of questions. Excuse me. It's great that you held a couple of hearings on these regs. It sounds like there was a lot of interest, and that came through in the comments as well. Can I ask if there were any comments expressed at the hearing or either of the hearings that were not included in the public comments that we received, the written public comments?
No, all comments that were made during the public hearing were summarized and put into the public comments section of your binder. For example, the comments from Margaret Petros that you see in the comment section were only provided orally during the public hearings.
Thank you. And then the other question I had was you made reference to removing section 649.4 for further consideration. And I just wanted to confirm there was only one comment period here. And so that's not considered a substantive change that would require a second comment period.
You are correct. We reached out to the Office of Administrative Law to confirm that we would not need to repost it with the removal of 649.4, and they confirmed we would not need to do that, which is why we did not repost it with that removal.
Thank you, Council. Yes, the regulations seemed pretty straightforward to me. They were mostly conforming to changes in the law or clarifications. So I have no concerns, but I'd like to open it up to my colleagues on the board if they have any questions or comments about these regulations.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just a quick question. I appreciate all the due diligence on this, and I know that there were originally proposed changes to 649.4, and those were pulled, as you mentioned. I just want to get a picture for the board of what the intent of those changes had been initially, and then what the process is moving ahead, or is there going to be a separate public process for opening up the regs again and then reconsidering changes to 649.4 based on what the staff was trying to achieve and the public comments that came as part of that?
The purpose behind the initial modifications to 649.4 was to try to simplify and clarify this regulation. As it was currently written, it was at times confusing for the public to navigate. And so the intention behind it was to just simplify and be completely transparent with our processes. The issues that the public raised with it was the section D, which was, section F. Section F, which stated that the board should not grant compensation to an applicant for any expenses incurred due to a victim's death or injury while the victim is incarcerated in a correctional institution. That was the majority of comments were about that section. They raised concerns that this is possibly not in line with statute. And so in order to provide CalVCB staff with sufficient time to ensure that it is in compliance with statute and look at the legislative history behind it, we pulled it at this time. I believe a form of it will most likely be a part of the next rulemaking package, but at this time, I do not know if Section F will be included, as we need to thoroughly research and review that and really consider all the public comments we received.
Great. And just to be clear, it sounds like this is still an outstanding issue. It may be under consideration in the next rulemaking package? That'll be, I presume, in a year or so. Is that, or are you looking sooner than that?
We are looking to bring additional regulations to you for modification in 2024. We're hoping to bring these forward in either or in the September board meeting, I believe. And at that point, it'll be able to be taken under further consideration.
Great. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your willingness to work with the stakeholders who have reached out to find a resolution on that. I think that'll be very helpful, and appreciate the due diligence on it. So thanks.
Member Beckton.
Thank you, Chair. My comments were about or questions really were about 649.4 as well. I was going, and I'm really glad that the process has been so thorough. I appreciate that from staff very much. And my only question, and because as I read the materials, I didn't see 649.4 actually stated in the materials, unless I missed it. If I did, please point that out for me, because it made it a little confusing to be able to evaluate the comments as they came in, because I wasn't sure what the actual regulation said with currently. So I'm really glad that you're going to take the time to pull this and give it another thorough look and bring it back to us at a different time, because I think it's an important issue that we all need to, one, understand, and then two, have all of the information available for us to make a informed decision. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Member Beckton. I actually have one more question. Feel free to put me off if you're not able to say at this point. I wondered whether you would be able to say what other items you might be considering for the September regulations package.
For a brief overview, we did submit the rulemaking calendar to the Office of Administrative Law for the 2024 year. And so throughout the 2024 year, because we're hoping to bring several packages to you, one will be about the 4900 updates, especially in light of the statutory changes that have occurred within the past year. Additionally, our goal is to bring you a packet to lay out and be fully transparent about our Good Samaritan program. And then for the victim side, one regulation that we have noted that very much needs to be brought to the board with modifications to clarify for the public is income loss and support loss. So those are our goals for the 2024 year. There may be additional victim program regulations once we sit down with program and really delve into it.
Thanks very much. Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 7?
I move to approve item 7.
Hold for a second.
I second.
Is there any public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location?
Ms. Petros, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Well, I want to sincerely thank the staff for their efforts on putting 2 public hearings on, going out to the public, to the stakeholders. This is a very difficult thing to understand for the average person out there. With all my experience, I had to read and read again. It'd be really nice, just like you had questions, that at the public hearings, the stakeholders, those of us who are interested, were able to ask questions. The public meeting was just listening. There was absolutely no engagement by the hearing officer, and I don't know, what the restrictions are. There could be some restrictions. They cannot engage with the public, but there could have been other staff at that public hearing that could have been there to really answer questions, because I still have questions, but I am glad the 649.4 is no longer or being further discussed, because that was some concerns, serious concerns there. But I think the staff really did a good job. I like the summary that's in your package now. It was really easy to follow for me. And yeah, the comments were captured pretty good. I do want to bring something to your attention that I was the only person in the entire state of California that asked for the public hearing. Otherwise, there was not going to be a public hearing held. So you must really ask the question why. This program is so important to hundreds and thousands of people in the state of California. Why there is no interest, or where are all the victims that have been denied or allowed that could come and share their experiences and really that we can all learn from. So that's something for the program to think about it and do things differently. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Petros. I certainly agree that it is an incredibly important program. Right. If there's no further public comment, Council, would you please call the roll?
The motion for consideration is approval of the staff's request for authority to conclude the rulemaking process for amendments to Title II of the California Code of Regulations. Specifically, we will not be moving forward with Section 649.4 as noted, and the sections that would be moved forward to the Office of Administrative Law are Sections 649.7, 649.15, 649.16, 649.19, 649.24, 649.28, and 649.50. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 8 is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim for Carter Hunter, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gutierrez.
As you can see from your materials, the first two Penal Code Section 4900 matters for your consideration are related matters. The first we'll consider is the application filed by Cartier Hunter, which application was filed on June 2nd of 2023, and which was also supplemented in June and August of 2023. This application is based on Mr. Hunter's 2016 convictions for murder and being felon in possession of a firearm. Both convictions were vacated by a writ of habeas corpus in February of 2023, and the case was dismissed immediately thereafter without a finding of factual innocence. As there was no objection filed by the Office of the Attorney General, compensation is automatic under Penal Code Section 4900, subsection B. Accordingly, the proposed decision recommends compensation in the amount of $449,960, which represents $140 per day for each of the 3,214 days Mr. Hunter was wrongfully imprisoned. Throughout these proceedings, Mr. Hunter has been represented by Attorney Lateef Gray of Pointer and Buena, and today the Office of the Attorney General is represented by Deputy Attorney General Jessica Leal.
Thank you, Council. We'll hear first for Council for Mr. Hunter, Mr. Gray.
Good morning, everyone. Lateef Gray, on behalf of Mr. Hunter. Also on the line is Mr. Pointer, who also represents Mr. Hunter, and we have nothing to add unless we need to.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Gray. Is Mr. Hunter present?
He's not present with us.
Thank you.
We're here in his stead.
Very good. Then we'll hear next from Ms. Leal from the Attorney General's office.
Good morning. I also have nothing to add unless the board has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leal. Is there any discussion of this item by the board? Thank you. Do I have a motion on item 8?
I move to adopt the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Cartier Hunter.
And I second that motion.
Is there any public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location? Seeing none.
Council, please call the roll.
The motion before the board is approval of the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Cartier Hunter. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson,
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 9 is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Giovanni Douglas, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gutierrez.
Similar to the last claim we just considered, Giovanni Douglas filed an application as a erroneously convicted felon with the board on June 2nd of 2023, and that application was supplemented in September of 2023. That application is based on his 2016 convictions for murder. Those convictions were vacated by a writ of habeas corpus in September of 2022, and the case was dismissed immediately thereafter without a finding of factual innocence. As there was no objection filed by the Office of the Attorney General to this claim, compensation is automatic under Penal Code Section 4900, subsection B. Accordingly, the proposed decision recommends compensation in the amount of $457,660, which represents $140 per day for each of the 3,269 days that Mr. Douglas was wrongfully imprisoned. Similar to the last case, Mr. Douglas is represented by Attorney Lateef Gray, and today the Office of the Attorney General is represented by Deputy Attorney General Jessica Leal.
Thank you, counsel. We'll hear first from Mr. Gray.
Good morning, everyone. Again, Lateef Gray and Mr. Pointer on behalf of Mr. Douglas, who is not here today. And just so the record is clear, item 8 and item 9, which we just heard, are from the same criminal case. So they're related.
Thanks, Mr. Gray. We'll hear now from Ms. Leal from the Attorney General's office.
Yes, I have no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leal. Do I have a motion on item 9?
I'll move to approve the hearing officer's recommendation on this item.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location? Seeing none.
Counsel, please call the roll.
The motion for consideration is adoption of the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Giovanni Douglas. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 10 is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim for Giovanni Hernandez, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gutierrez.
You'll have to excuse my stumble as there are so many similar names today. Mr. Hernandez filed an application with the California Victim Compensation Board as an erroneously convicted felon on December 18th of 2023, which was further supplemented in late December of 2023. That application is based on his 2012 convictions for first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and shooting an unoccupied vehicle. Those convictions were vacated in June of 2023 pursuant to a grant of habeas corpus. In December of 2023, the court granted the motion for a finding of factual innocence pursuant to Penal Code Section 1485.55. As mandated by the court order and pursuant to that same Penal Code section, the proposed decision recommends compensation in the amount of $859,600, which represents $140 per day for each of the 6,140 days that Mr. Hernandez was wrongfully imprisoned. Throughout these proceedings, Mr. Hernandez has been represented by Marissa Harris, former supervising attorney at the Juvenile Innocence and Fair Sentencing Clinic at Loyola Law School, and the Office of the Attorney General today is represented by Deputy Attorney General Jessica Leal.
Thank you, counsel. We'll hear first from Ms. Harris.
Good morning and thank you. Marissa Harris on behalf of Giovanni Hernandez, who is present on the Zoom but is muted and whose camera is off. The only thing we have to say is that we concur with the hearing officer's proposed recommendation that the Cal Victims Compensation Board approve Mr. Hernandez's compensation for 6,140 days incarcerated for a crime he did not commit. And that is all we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. I understand Mr. Hernandez is muted with his camera off, but would he like to address the board?
No, I whatever I said is on behalf of him too.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. We'll hear now from Ms. Leal of the Attorney General's office.
Yes, this is a claim that fell under the automatic compensation provision, so the Attorney General has no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leal. Is there any discussion on this item by the board? Okay, do I have a motion on item 10?
I move to approve the hearing officer's recommendation on item 10.
I would second it. Did I hear any requests for public comment? I might have missed it.
Oh, I think that comes next.
Oh, okay.
Is there any
All right.
public comment on this item via Zoom here in Sacramento or at the Martinez location? Seeing none.
Council, please call the roll.
The motion before the board is adoption of the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Giovanni Hernandez. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Council. The board will now convene into closed session under Government Code Section 11126 sub C3 to discuss numbers 1 through 111 of the Victim Compensation Program.
Am I in the closed session now with you? No.
Not yet. We're working on that. There it is.
Board is reconvening into public session under Government Code Section 11126 sub C3. I wanted to note for the record, I mentioned this earlier in response to Ms. Petros's comment, but I wanted to note for the record that we received a written comment from the claimant in item number 4, and it was considered as the part of the board's decision in closed session. So do I have a motion for items 1 through 96, except for number 3 of the Victim Compensation Program?
I move approval of numbers 1 through 96 of the Victim Compensation Program, excluding item number 3.
I second.
Council, please call the roll.
The motion before the board is approval of the hearing officer's proposed recommended decisions in items 1 through 96 of the Victim Compensation Program, with the exception of item 3. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Is there any other business that needs to come before the board today? Seeing and hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move the meeting be adjourned.
And I second.
Council, please call the roll.
Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all next time.
See you at the next meeting on March 21st, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.